Good afternoon, Packers fans. Aaron Negler here with your Packers Daily Chat, coming to you live on the Cheesehead TV social channels. Happy Victory Monday. Hope you're having a great time wherever it is you are, whatever it is you're doing. I hope you're in a better headspace, because I got to admit that post-game chat last night, woo, baby, it's got some teeth in that one. And look, I understand, as I said at the top of the chat, very frustrating game to watch. Lots to overcome. The Packers not just having to beat the Cardinals, but having to overcome their own mistakes. But man, it's a victory. It's a big win in Arizona, where things are always seemingly a little crazy. Packers coming home 4-1-1, first place in the division. Get to watch Detroit take on the Bucs tonight on Monday Night Football. You're sitting pretty if you're a Packers fan, especially if you go back and watch Micah Parsons in that game. You talk about a dominant performance. One of the most dominating defensive performances we've seen in Green Bay for a very long time. I'm talking, you can go and look at the best games Charles Woodson had in a Packers uniform. You can go back to Reggie White in a Packers uniform. It was that level. You talk about completely taking over the game and almost willing your team to victory on the defensive side of the ball. That's what Micah Parsons did yesterday. And that's what we talked about when the Packers made the bombshell trade and gave up 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark and handed Parsons a monster contract. And I know there were some Packers fans, somewhat understandably, saying that no player could be worth this and they overpaid and all that nonsense, because that's what that was, nonsense. Micah Parsons is worth every penny. And you saw him most likely after the game talking about, couldn't believe they continued to play him straight up. You give him one-on-one opportunities, he is going to win. And he did that again and again and again in that game. Almost any time he was presented with a one-on-one, he won his matchup. Now, obviously, 3 times he got the quarterback on the ground, got quarterback on the ground one other time. That was flagged away, but this was such a dominant performance, and they do not win that game without that performance. That is special stuff. And I just hope, in the wake of the frustration, because again, I get it, that game was hard to watch at times and it was very frustrating. In the wake of it, though, man, I hope you do appreciate and enjoy what you're seeing from Micah Parsons, and not just yesterday, but so far his entire time in a Green Bay Packers uniform. He is a special player, and we are very, very lucky as Packers fans that, A, we get to call him ours now after years of watching him wreck things down in Dallas. But the fact that he's helping your favorite team win football games almost single-handedly, special times. And you talk about complimentary football, getting off the field on third downs, sacking the quarterback, and then turning around and watching the offense put up points. It's a good time to be a Green Bay Packers fan, because this team is only going to improve as the year goes along. Very excited. Be along for the ride. Good times on the defensive side with Micah Parsons terrorizing opposing quarterbacks. How are you guys doing? Good to see everybody in the comments section chatting it up. So many folks already. What's going on, everybody? Of course, Dennis is here. Dennis, how are you, man? And to your question or preference about happy hour, you'll see Patreon page here on YouTube, the Carrie G Club. Information is already up for Tuesday's happy hour. So yes, happy hour this week will be tomorrow night. You know, like I said, the information is on your respective pages. Okay, before I get to your questions and comments, got to give a shout out to our good friends over at ThedaCare. ThedaCare is a proud sponsor of Cheesehead TV. Before any big game, make sure your health is in championship form. With more than 115 years of trusted care and a team of experts in over 60 specialties, ThedaCare keeps athletes and fans alike game day ready, because winning starts with wellness. You can check out ThedaCare.org or the link in the description of this video for more information. Do it, folks. All right, what's going on? Hit me. Adrian, starting us off. Thank you for the super chat, sir. Hi, Aaron. I wanted to invite you, Olive, and everyone else to the tailgate I'll be organizing for the Giants game. State Street Brats, Cheese Curds, Spotted Cow, and Carry the G, Lot M, next to NJRC building from 8 a.m. Adrian, there is a very good chance I'm going to take you up on that. So don't let me down. Lot M. I'll find you. And dude, you got Spotted Cow and Carry the G and State Street Brats. Your guy will be there. Appreciate that, man. Ed, what's going on? Thanks so much for the super chat. Great win. Now do it again in Pittsburgh. I'm going to take this 24 hours to enjoy the victory in Arizona. But yes, big one coming up on Sunday night against Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know what Matt LaFleur said at the podium today, and I get it. He's talking about how it's the Green Bay Packers taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And yes, Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback, and they, as a football team, will prepare to face the team that has, been out there for 6 games, what they've put on film, etc. Aaron is the quarterback, but that narrative and all the past relationships don't mean anything to them. And that's all true. But hot damn, it's going to be a very charged week, both leading up to this game, but especially during this game on Sunday night. I'm excited. Cannot wait. Kind of wish I was going to this one now. Like, I remember when the schedule came out, I thought, I'd like to go, but, I'll do watch party, whatever. I'm kind of wishing I'd bought tickets. But be that as it may, it's going to be a fun time Sunday night. No question about it. Aaron Harper. I'm sorry. This is funny when you juxtapose it with what Matt said when he was asked about him. Aaron Harper says, 21 needs to be on the bench now. He sucks. I do think he's, struggling a bit. No question about it. Certainly gave up a few receptions in that game yesterday. I think he sucks or he needs to be benched is probably an overreaction. And I know Matt said, he definitely needs to bounce back, and Matt expects him to. I don't think he's nearly as bad as the internet is making him out to be, but he has struggled. There's zero doubt about that. Now, will he be given opportunities either on the perimeter or maybe even in the slot going forward? I think that could potentially be a conversation. But there's no way, 6 games in, that they're just going to bench the guy, who they signed in free agency as one of their premier signings. I understand that it's frustrating watching him give up receptions. It's not like he's the only one. I think he certainly needs to play better, and hopefully he'll do exactly that starting on Sunday night. But, I am curious to see what Bo Melton would do if given some opportunities. I don't think he's close to seeing the field in that regard, but he looked pretty decent this summer, and I'm sure he could give them at least what Hobbs has been giving him. So maybe there's opportunity there, but I do think they're going to continue to, utilize Hobbs as they best see fit. And hopefully, he does improve, because yesterday it was tough. It was definitely a tough one. No doubt about it. Jeezy baby. Thank you, sir. It's hard to win on the road in the NFL. That being said, every team makes us try to dink and dunk while they can get the ball out fast versus us. Frustrating. Makes us try to dink and dunk. Well, I think we should do a little bit more dinking and dunking. And I think Matt kind of alluded to that in his presser today. And going back and watching the game again, I did feel like Jordan was pressing at times to try and push the ball down the field when there were opportunities available underneath. I don't hate a dink and dunk game if you're efficient about it, which is what teams are trying to do to the Packers. Now, to your point, there are plays there where I'm kind of scratching my head as far as the defensive approach. There's one call in particular where they're blitzing from depth, and it's like, these guys want to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands as quickly as possible, in rhythm, whatever. You're blitzing a safety from 15 yards out. Like, there's no chance of that thing getting home. Now, that said, when they played that way and tried to, push the ball down the field on 3rd and longer, that's when Parsons made hay, right? That's when he got them off the field. And that just speaks to the importance of trying to get these teams off schedule, because as long as they are staying ahead of the sticks, it's going to remain somewhat easy for a quarterback to dice up the Packers, because the Packers, as we've talked about many times, have done a phenomenal job of limiting explosive plays. For the most part yesterday, they did a good job at that, but they also gave up a few, which was pretty uncharacteristic for how they've played throughout the season. But yeah, that's not going to change. And I don't think it's going to change next week with Aaron and the Steelers. I think they're going to come in there with the idea of, we're going to try and paper cut these guys because we don't want to deal with Parsons and we don't want to deal with that front. And we think we can make hay after the catch. And it'll all be about how patient Rodgers can be. You saw he got into trouble the other night. That predetermined throw up the left sideline to DK Metcalf that the Bengals took away. That's what the Packers are hoping he does. Always a fun chess match, no question about it. Joe, what's up, man? Aaron Rodgers once said the future of his career is a beautiful mystery, kind of how I feel about this Packers team. Yeah, I totally hear you that, man. It is hard to get your finger on the pulse of this team from week to week, right? I will say this, though. As I said during Watch Party and in the post game yesterday, they're a very talented team, and they can beat anybody. The problem is they keep beating themselves at the most inopportune times. Zero doubt in my mind that this is a team that can go on the road and win on Sunday and win in any environment. But yeah, the way the penalties, especially pre-snap penalties, self-inflicted wounds, it is really, really making it tough for them to find any kind of consistency and or momentum. More than anything else, that is the one thing they have got to figure out, because until they do, it's going to continue to be frustrating in a week-to-week kind of which kind of team are we going to see today kind of mode. Soder, what's up, man? Love has been really good in end-of-game situations. Shout out to Sean Mannion. A good call on Sean Mannion. Interesting new voice in the building, right? And in Jordan's ear in practice and whatnot. And you're right, man. He has been outstanding. For all of the can't trust him nonsense that we heard earlier this season, he has been fucking lights out. Think about how many times they've had gotta have it situations, whether it's that 4th and 6 in overtime down in Dallas, whether it's 4th and 2 yesterday, he hits Tucker Kraft for the big conversion. There have been many, many moments where he has absolutely risen to the occasion when they have absolutely needed him to deliver. That's what he's done. Big time stuff. VT, what's up? We should have retired number 21 with Woodson. Since then, it's been all downhill with Clinton Dix, Stokes, and now Hobbs. Kind of like what 36 went through after Leroy, retired. Although we finally ended up with Nick Collins. Collins was on his way to becoming a Hall of Famer until he got hurt. But I feel you, man. 21 does feel a tad touched and or cursed. Tom, what's up, man? Free Matthew Golden, non-factor after the first quarter. Go Pack. Hard to say with any certainty, not knowing what the calls are. And they did hit him in the fourth quarter on a pretty important play off the right side. But I feel you, man. It's frustrating to see all that promise and talent and then not see it get kind of featured and or called upon with regularity. But at the same time, we don't know what the reads are. You don't know what the coverages are. Maybe he is the primary call, but they're rolling in that way. And then Love sees something and he goes to Dobbs or he goes to Tucker Kraft or whatever, With that said, yeah, I'd like to see him involved with a little more regularity. But again, without knowing the calls, without looking at the down in and down out, what every kind of progression is, it's hard to be definitive about it. You know what I mean? Evan, it's a great question, man. What's with all the penalties? So many yards lost. There is zero doubt that is being harped on at 1265 Lombardi this week, because it is absolutely the one thing that is really stopping them from reaching their full potential on a regular basis. There are always going to be mistakes. There's going to be drops, right? There's going to be physical things where the other guy just gets one on you because they just played that down better than you, and you can live with that. But the self-inflicted wounds, the stuff that you control to take away yards or take away plays, that is killing them. And that may be a product of the youth, but at some point you got to look at what Brian said this summer, right? They are young, but they have played a lot of ball. They cannot continue to shoot themselves in the foot and expect to, get where they want to go. Rick, what's up, man? Parsons was good and all, but the real reason for the W was no jet sweeps. I would have liked a jet sweep at some point. I'll tell you what, I'll take a jet sweep over that pitch to Jacobs on third down to the short side of the field right prior to the fourth down that they had to convert. Even Matt at his, shout out LaFleur for recognizing it, because he even said at his press conference, he started to say it was a shitty play call, but then he changed it to crappy play call. Whatever you want to call it, however you want to describe the feces, it was a feces call. And I'm glad he recognizes it, because, man, that was horrible. And I'd take a jet sweep over that. Still not a huge jet sweep fan, but I'd take it in that situation. Jesse, what's up, man? Love that 6-second drive to get a field goal. Loved watching Nego's reaction to a running play there on the watch party. We were all thinking of Dallas. Yeah, man. I was scarred, and I was going back, because I know Tyler posted it. What I was really kind of still marinating in very clearly was giving up that touchdown at the end of the half. That colored my whole kind of mood there. So I was already upset and pissed off and frustrated. And then they go and run a play, and all I can think of is Jordan Love in the strip sack fumble down in Dallas when they're trying to push it there at the end of the first half. So absolutely major props to LaFleur for pushing it there, having a play call, knowing what they need to get into a position to even attempt a 61-yard field goal. And man, did they can nail that. Shout out to the substitute teacher for absolutely delivering. I mean, you think about the fact that this team was kind of almost somewhat defined by special teams mishaps, mistakes, miscues through. I mean, we spent a damn bye week talking about it. Like, we spent like almost 10, 12 days talking about how crappy special teams were and Rich Bisaccia's job and whatever. This kid comes in and just nails everything, including a franchise record 61-yard field goal. Pretty damn impressive. Lost Son of Krypton, what's up, man? 2 words, Savion Williams. Heath getting cardio in. It feels like a juxtaposition there, but I'm not really catching it. Heath getting cardio in? Are you talking about Savion Williams looking like Malik Heath on returns? Or Savion Williams not playing all but 4 snaps? Not too sure there, man. Brian, thank you for the super chat. Crazy how much Love has progressed. I enjoy watching him throw 15 to 20-yard balls, especially over the middle on early downs. Yes, they certainly were attacking on some of those deep in cuts, some of the dagger concepts. There ain't a concept I don't love watching him throw. Now, he's going to miss a few. Every quarterback does, but for the most part, it has been outstanding so far through these first 6 games. Dustin, how are you, man? Thank you so much. Loving this season sometimes, but is Cooper underperforming? Is his role changed? Just curious, please, why he's not popping like last year. It's interesting. I think the offensive approach from teams has somewhat limited his ability to pop, as you're putting it there. But I would also encourage you to go watch a couple of different outside runs or attempted outside runs by the Cardinals yesterday, where he gets through the wash lightning fast and drops the ball carrier for either no gain or a loss of yards. Certainly you'd like to see him be a little bit more dynamic in regards to turning the ball over at times, making a few plays on the ball in coverage, etc. But it's hard for me to get too down on his play when there just hasn't been a ton of opportunities for, him to get after the quarterback, because that was Quay's job yesterday for the most part, or to, make big plays in the passing game when they're just nickel and diming every single game. I do think his time will come. And I also think there's little question that the player you saw last year and his athletic ability, explosiveness, etc., is still there. I just think he hasn't been given a ton of opportunities because of the style of play that teams need to play against this Packers defense. But again, we will undoubtedly come up against teams at some point who want to push the envelope, who want to try and push the ball down the field. And I do think in those instances, he will make plays. That is my guess. Mike, what's up, man? Howdy, Nags. ER number 2 checking in. Did Matt happen to mention the possible availability of Watson? That Steelers secondary is very touchable this season so far, so could really use him Sunday. Mike, the thing is they've now had him up practicing for 2 weeks, so this is their final week. They have to make a decision. They don't necessarily have to activate him, but they have to do something with him at the end of this week. They either have to activate him to the 53-man roster, or place him back on IR, ending his season. So if he's going to play, it has to start this week. And that will most likely happen, I believe, Friday or Saturday. I can't remember the exact timing of the days, but it will happen at the end of this week. Watson will be up, or he'll be done. Brandy, how are you? Thanks for the super chat. I understand Kraft is needed to block. I hope an alternative plan for blocking that affords Kraft to get more routes in those early downs develops. I feel you, Brandy. Certainly, as the Packers, both Stenovich and LaFleur mentioned last week, that front has really improved. That front being the Cardinals front, comparative, especially to what they faced last year in Lambeau. They went out and did a lot of retooling up front, and they needed as much kind of up front for the Packers offense as they could provide, including Tucker Kraft. I hear you. It would be nice to get him more regularly involved in the passing game. But with that said, he still obviously affected that game and was a big part of it. And not just the fourth down conversion. There's the obvious touchdown. There's a great screenplay that he takes up that right sideline in the second half. I mean, we're still involved, right? But I'm with you. I'd like to see more tight ends in general. Like, it's interesting to see how different coaches and offensive play callers, designers respond to things, right? Like LaFleur has kept lots of wide receivers in the mix, where I really liked what Sean McVay did in London against the Jaguars after they lost Nakua. They just spammed the hell out of 13 personnel. They had a ton of tight ends on the field, and they both ran the ball and passed the ball out of that. And we saw a little bit of that from LaFleur earlier this year, specifically against Washington. But, now that they've had kind of, guys in and out, Wicks went out again yesterday. I'd really like to see them try and get more tight ends on the field and try and play with that a little bit, because I do think they could be pretty damn effective between Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. I think they could make some hay. Tucker, thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate you, man. David Williams, thank you, sir. Hey, Nags, I don't give a fuck about shit. A win's a win. I mean, that's a perfect summation, sir. Well played. Jerry, what's up? Back again. Go Pack. I mean, perfectly stated. What more do you need to say, really? Atomic, you're correct. 9 could be on the 53, but not active, correct? He would be on the 53-man roster, yes, but they could potentially keep him down, so to speak, as inactive on game day. That is correct. But he has to be on the 53-man roster or on IR by the end of this week. But you are absolutely right. He could be on the 53, but just not activated for the game. That is true. Jim, I hear you. If Kraft has to stay in and block, at least target Musgrave. I hear you. It would be nice to see Musgrave get involved in any real sense, especially, and here's the weird thing, is I get like these last couple of years for Musgrave have kind of been defined by the fact that he's been hurt and he has not had a ton of opportunity because of it, right? But man, he had a really good summer. He looked legit as hell in training camp. He made a number of really nice plays, and that just has not materialized at all in the regular season. And I don't think it's much of his fault, because he just hasn't been targeted. They haven't gone to him in any meaningful way. So, yeah, I don't know. It'd be nice to get him going a little bit. Nice to like I said, get more tight ends on the field in general. Start getting them involved more in the passing game. I am absolutely down. I am down with this. Sean, thank you, sir. Hey, Nags, going to my first away game this week. Any Cheesehead TV events going on in the Steel City? Sean, unfortunately, no. I was talking about that earlier. I really kind of regretting not going to this game now, but no, sir. Will not be at the Steelers game. No Cheesehead TV events. We will be having a Cheesehead TV meetup the night before the Giants game at Kettle of Fish in the Village. And apparently, there's going to be a bumping pregame tailgate going on in the lots at MetLife. So if you're in the New York area, come on out. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to get going. Cannot thank you enough for hanging out, talking Packers each and every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Cheesehead TV social channels. Please do me a monster favor and hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then tell your friends and tell your family. Cheesehead TV, we are devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great night. Go Pack, go.